Many owners pester managers and board members over perceived slights, not getting their own way. And sometimes the owners just have psychological issues, owners and residents. Unfortunately, managers and board members are prime targets. Where is the line when something goes from pestering to harassment to outright stalking? And what can a manager or board expect from their association and or law enforcement?
The line is where the manager draws it, right? The line is the perception of the manager if they feel like they're being harassed. An owner is never going to admit that they're harassing a manager. But if the manager feels that way, then they need the support of not only their superiors in the management company, but from the board. And that goes by laying out expectations initially when you first introduce yourself and what your scope is, right? The management contract should lay out when you're on site, when you're going to return phone calls, and the conduct that's expected. What I would always advise, if there are residents that are crossing that line, is to immediately implement a code of conduct resolution for the membership as a whole and lay out the expectations so everyone's on notice when you're supposed to communicate to them or not. That way, if they're found that they're violating the code of conduct resolution, you have teeth as a board and as an association and as a manager to either fine them or file some type of a lawsuit to enjoin them from communicating with the manager any further. Regarding law enforcement, all of this should be documented immediately and really followed up on because you want to create as much of a paper trail as possible to make sure that you kind of put out the fire in that particular community and even with just that resident.
If a board or manager feels like they're not getting the support from their association, maybe the fellow board members say, you're overreacting, or maybe the manager's company says, comes with our business. Does a manager and board member have the right, or do you have an issue with them going straight to law enforcement, or do they have to go through the association or their management company?
The first thing, well, it depends on the level, right? If it's a clear criminal act, it should be immediately reported to the police. And any association attorney will tell you that you shouldn't wait on those kinds of things, right? That's only going to increase the association's exposure to liability if you tell them not to, right, not to go to the police. But if there is a line that it's a little blurred, but you're feeling it's being crossed, it needs to be documented all across the board. There is nothing wrong with going to the police and filing a report. It does not hurt the association to do that. In fact, it's proper protocol to make sure you have as much paper trail as possible for all of these things. So if there's a manager out there, and it happens a lot in our industry, and it's why we lose really good managers, is that they're not getting the support that they need from their superiors or their boards. So if they're feeling that way, they need to immediately make sure that every single person that they work with, that they report to, is on notice of this and demand really that something is done, because there are ways, whether it's being moved off site somewhere else or implementing some other way of communicating that needs to be put in place there.
I didn't think about the liability of an association or management company if they don't take action.
Most lawsuits are about notice, right? Most lawsuits are about actual notice or constructive notice, which means you should have known something. If somebody's telling you that conduct is harassing or there's a threat that is real and the association is not doing anything and it causes damages, pain and suffering, right? Even emotional damages, doesn't have to be physical. That is a potential for a lawsuit for the association. So if any board member or if any manager or anybody feels that that's going on in their community and they're not doing the right things to properly document it and make sure that stops, they may be exposed to a potential lawsuit from either a manager or a board member at some point.